Together, we're exploring the intersection of faith, biology, and the signals that shape how we heal.
You'll hear conversations about nervous system safety,
peptides, and cellular communication,
prayer, trust, and what it means to live aligned with design.
No hype,
no pressure,
just curiosity, relationship, and truth.
Welcome to Prayer and Peptides. If something in today's episode resonates with you, take a moment to comment the word of the episode, thirst. It supports this channel, enters you to win, and helps us keep this space thoughtful, grounded, and relational. Before we begin, let's start with awareness, not answers, just being here in this space. And this is probably the first time all day, maybe all week, that you have taken a deep breath. So in through your nose, hold it for a few seconds, and then out through your mouth. So let's do that together. Taking one breath doesn't fix anything, it doesn't optimize anything, but it does help you notice where you are, right here in this moment. Some of us were taught to override our feelings and override the signals and override thirst. How many of you had coaches that just didn't give you a sip of water until you ran that last lap? Like, I'm there, done that. I don't want to do that again. But most of us are taught to override things in the body and in our soul, but we call it discipline, or we're led to call it discipline or strength or pushing through or perseverance. But what if those signals weren't a flaw? What if thirst was information? Today isn't necessarily about drinking more water, but it's learning how to listen. So ladies, I have a question for you. Where have you learned to override instead of respond?
I think for myself, I have learned about taking the pause, and also maybe when I'm really upset or I wanted to respond quickly, that was something that I thought I had to get my message out. I thought I had to get my point out in life. And especially if I felt attacked. If I felt attacked or somebody was coming at me, I would shut down, but I also would want to just have my side of the story. And I could feel all that anxiety coming up. I could feel all my feelings. And one thing that I'm learning as I grow is it's okay to not always respond. Sometimes it's okay to take the other path. Sometimes people's story or message or what they're trying to place on you doesn't always need a response right away if you're not ready. So that's one thing that I've been practicing with myself and trying to learn to keep my own core at a healthier spot.
I love that, Aimee. And I think that is great to take a minute to pause, because I do feel the same way. When I can just stop for just a minute and just really think about what's happening, what's going on, then I'm not responding. Especially if I'm going to respond to defend myself in any particular way. I think for me, one of the ways that I try to override and instead of just respond, and I guess maybe it is a response, but I just tend to ask more questions. I ask a lot of questions, like, where did you get that from? Or why do you believe that? Or do you think that? Or did I do this? Trying to get to the bottom, maybe pushing back some of those onion layers a little bit, trying to understand what is really happening here? Where is the disconnect? And so for me, it is just asking a lot of questions, but it also goes along with pause, just like what you said.
Lauren, when you talk about that, asking more questions, it's something that, do you also self-evaluate and ask questions in yourself internally too at the same time? Or is it really just listening to the other person?
It's definitely both. And I think that comes from my leadership coaching. I've learned how to be a coach to other people, but most of the time I use those practices on myself more than anything. I am constantly coaching myself through certain scenarios and certain things and certain movements. Because I am my worst critic. I am so hard on myself, and I always am worried that maybe I said something wrong or said something incorrectly, or maybe somebody misunderstood me, or maybe I didn't communicate well enough, or maybe, I panicked and I didn't say something I should have said, and now I regret it, and what do they think of me? I'm the worst about that. And I have to go back a lot of times and coach myself through it and just calm myself down, take that pause, like you said, and calm myself down a little bit and go through the questions. Well, did I do this? And did they do this? And well, they know this. And like I go through the whole scenario and ask all the questions. And through asking those questions, whether they're to myself or to somebody else, more information comes up. And sometimes that information is that's what I need to like have the peace, or that's what I need to make the situation better, or to apologize if I owe somebody an apology, or maybe it's just to give myself the clarity that I need that, "Oh, okay, everything's fine. I'm just making this bigger than what it really needs to be," which that happens sometimes.
One of my favorite definitions or ways that I've heard responsibility explained is it's our ability to respond. So if we are not taking that pause and asking those questions like Aimee suggested and Lauren so graciously laid out of like, hey, here's how I do it in my everyday. If we don't take the pause, then we are in reaction mode. We're not in respond mode. And we can take that breath and take that beat and go to that place of like, well, how would I want someone to respond to me if things were switched? Like, and it's real easy to just jump into reaction mode so quick, but it's just one of those things that I love that definition. And responsibility is my ability to respond responsibly.
I find that interesting what you just said, Anna, because one thing that I've been really struggling with, and maybe the two of you can help me with it, is I am similar to Lauren, where if I feel I've wronged somebody or I've hurt somebody, it will play over and over. One thing that I've tried to do is practice the pause before reacting. But one challenge that's happened was people want my response sooner. And then if I pause, then they're hurt that I paused. And even when I may explain why I paused so I could reset and give them my best self, I have also hurt people along the way when I've taken the pause. Has that happened to you, and how do you work through that? Because that's definitely something for myself that I'm working on.
I totally hear what you're saying. And I can totally understand that too, because I've definitely experienced those same things. And I think at the end of the day, when you're dealing with people, it's just different personalities and you can't make everyone happy. You just can't do it. And no matter what, you might be thinking you're making the best choice and you're doing all these great things that's going to be seen well across the board. And there's going to be one person that has a different perception of that. And what I have learned personally is a lot of times people's perception come from whatever they're feeling in the moment. So they project whatever emotion that they have. So if you are saying something with love and kindness and someone just had a horrible day and they're angry, they're not going to receive it with love and kindness. They're going to receive it with like some type of anger and they're ready to come back at you, you know? And so I do think that is something, I mean, I've struggled with that before. And I think that's where our faith really comes into play. And it's like really giving it up to the Lord and surrendering and asking God to take it over. Like, okay, God, I've done this, this, and this. I trying to like find your will in this. I did it the best that I can. And so now I'm going to give this to you and you're going to handle the rest of it for me because there's nothing else I can do. Like, this is beyond my control at this point. So here you go, do your job, do your thing. And I just did mine and let's team up and let's make this wonderful. And for me, that's kind of where I have to go. Sometimes I just have to go straight to my faith.
Yeah, I think all three of us are verbal processors. And y'all learned in our last episode that I verbal process a lot with Lauren. And I have this thought in my head and I'm like, I don't know what this person's thinking, but this is what I'm going to say to him. And I say it out loud. And Lauren's like, you can't say that. Like, I feel you, like you're justified in feeling that way, but you can't say that. So having someone that you can verbally process with, just to get those feelings out. And some people journal, some people write letters, and then burn them, or they just walk around the house talking about it, like they're just talking to themselves. So whatever you really need to do to process that. And half the time, and I do this with my husband because we will get into an argument and I will have to walk away. And I go for a walk and move my body and get things like there's a mile walk that I do. But if I don't, I tell him, I said, I'm going to say something to you that you don't want me to say and I don't want to say and I can't take it back. So you need to give me space. And he's like, well, let's talk about it. When are we going to talk about it? I'm like, I don't know, but not right now. So I commend you for having the internal authority, Aimee, to set a boundary of like, hey, it is not safe to talk about this right now. I understand that you have big feelings about it. I have big feelings about it too, and I don't want to talk about it when I could say something that I don't actually mean because I'm frustrated or I'm hungry or I'm tired. Like, we don't have discussions at 8 o'clock at night. Y'all know at 8:30, I turn into a pumpkin. Like, I can't do anything after 8:30. So when Mark and I were first married, he would like want to have these deep conversations before bed or art like discussions. And I'm like, no, I can't. I can't do this. Like, you want me fresh, you want me focused, you want me not in a place that I'm gonna snap at you because this tongue is a double-edged sword. Like, and she can, yeah, so good at slicing between bone and marrow, like totally got that down pat. But it's something that I've had to learn to control because it can be very, very dangerous and detrimental to those around me when I'm all in my feelings. And so I commend you for having that awareness of, hey, I just need a little space. And if they're not okay with that, then that's kind of their own internal processing. And also being a processor, if I don't know, if I'm at odds with somebody, I build it all up in my head, which is why I talked to Lauren because she's like, that's probably not what's happening. Like, okay, and we're always right in our own conversations, right? So, but having that where we take the pause again and say, God, I give this to you. Like, Holy Spirit, help me be in a spirit to have this conversation and meet them where they are and have a productive conversation. And starting off, the conversation like that would be, a good thing to.
Here at Prayer and Peptides, we explore how faith and biology work together, not against each other. If you're done forcing fixes and you're ready to understand alignment, you're in the right place. Remember, you can always visit us on prayerandpeptides.com for more resources and support.
So thrive doesn't arrive as an emergency, right? It really starts as a whisper. And when whispers are ignored, the body starts to adapt. You think about things like fatigue and think about mood shifts and brain fogs. These are all like the body adapting to when you are ignoring these little whispers. And it's not because you're failing, it's because something essential hasn't been met. So think about stuff going on in your life and the needs that you need met. Are they being met? And if they're not, how are you responding to that? And I think that we tend to wait for a breakdown before we really respond. But the signals always come first, and the body is incredibly efficient. If a need isn't met consistently, it doesn't panic. It just starts to compensate. And compensation, spiritually, I think that we do the very same thing. We downplay this dryness. We become distant. We become restless. We tell ourselves we'll deal with it later. And after the season, after the deadline, and after the responsibility, that's when we'll deal with it. But this thirst is never random. It's a signal asking to be honored. So, ladies, what signals do you tend to minimize because they feel inconvenient, whether that's physically or spiritually?
I think for myself, it goes back to when Anna was talking about being an athlete and you're going to push through until you're allowed to get a drink and like really have that thirst. There's many times in my life with my job or being a special needs mom where I push and push and push. And I have these things that are saying, Aimee, slow down. And I keep pushing through until all of a sudden I hit a wall and it's bad. And when I hit it, it's the tears. And I'm not a huge crier, but man, my body tells me I'm done and I have to make changes. And a lot of times, similar to what you were just also talking about, where I have built up a story in my head that I'm going to be letting people down. I'm not going to get something done. Like the world is going to end is what my brain is telling me. But in reality, that's just me putting it on myself. Or if I've hit that wall and I didn't recognize like, oh, I forgot to eat today. Oh, I've only had a cup of coffee. And then I go at that pace for a few days when a lot of stuff's going on. And then all of a sudden I take it out on my husband or somebody at work and it's like not even their fault. So sometimes I ignore those signs that are like, slow down, you're putting too much on you. And I build it up, which makes it even worse. And then an explosion.
Being the way that I live, I have to listen to those signals because while Aimee can recover after a day, it takes me several days if I ignore it. And I struggle with saying no to people that need my help because I want to help them. I want to do the thing. I also have to, if it is not a heck yes, then it's no, or let me find another way or another solution for you because I just don't have it in my bandwidth. So, on a spiritual level, like this really came into play when I was a little kid. And if I had lied to my parents or was hiding something, like my behavior changed and my parents knew it. I knew it too, but I thought it was so slick, so good, like, oh, they don't know. They don't know that I was on the phone at 10 o'clock. It was like 10:05, but I'm not supposed to be on the phone past 10 o'clock. I mean, nothing I ever did was inherently wrong or dangerous necessarily. I was just disobedient. And so when I wasn't living in obedience, I could really tell that like I'd be short with my parents or I wouldn't want to be around them and because I was hiding something. I was lying. I was not doing what I was supposed to do. So that is a way, and I'm sure those of you that have kids, your kids have a tell and you're like, how long are you going to keep this up? How long are you going to try? Like even with my dogs, it's like Fievel has eaten something that he shouldn't have, and I can't find it, but he's not coming anywhere near me. He's not making eye contact, and he's my lovey-dovey boy. So, like, it's one of those things that I think that it is all in our nature. And I mean, if we don't take the time to address what is going on, it will blow up. It will be the end of the world or something detrimental will happen to be like, okay, you got to quit doing that. You have to say no. You have to take the break. You have to, not be in that situation anymore. And that happens a lot with business too, or friendships or relationships of like, this is really the person I have you that I want in your circle and want you hanging out with. And so think about back on your life, like what has taken you out of that job? Like you were like, oh no, I'm just going to do it because I need the paycheck. But then you become completely miserable or whatever happened. So there's lots of ways that these signals come into play. So if you've had a signal in your life, I want to know down in the comments, what signals have you seen and have kind of gotten your attention?
That's interesting. And there's so many different types of signals. And for me, like I have signals that are more physical. Being a hairstylist and standing all day, if I'm working a lot of hours in a week, my body starts to break down. Kind of like what you were saying, Aimee, like you get like if you don't eat and you just keep pushing through and then all of a sudden it like you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't eaten in a couple hours or maybe a whole day or so. Like today was a perfect example. I was so busy at the salon today, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't have lunch today. Oh my gosh, it's about to be dinner time, and I haven't even had anything to eat, and I need something just to keep myself going. And so for me, standing all day and not taking the breaks, not sitting down, not giving myself time to stretch in between clients, that really hurts my body. It breaks my body down. And I cannot be the hairstylist I want to be for other people if I don't take care of my body. But I will push through and I'll be like, oh, it's fine. It'll be fine. I'll just rest tomorrow or I'll have the weekend off. But then the reality is when the weekend gets here, I don't want to do anything. I want to stay in bed the whole time. And then I'm like not a fun person at all. And then you go and you spiral down and then you're like, man, and you just start thinking about all these negative things, and it's because I didn't pay attention to the signals.
I think you just nailed it for me is I loop when I'm down my body, when I'm at my low, I loop in my head, like the negative. And I think we talked about this maybe on one of the first episodes where like retraining my CD-ROM of like, what do I hear on actions? And there's signals when I'm starting to do that. I know I'm not taking care of myself because I'm usually a pretty strong person. But when I feel it, and a lot of times I know like, it's like, where do you feel it? I feel it right in my chest. Like I feel it in my chest and like I get anxious and I need to calm down. And most of the time I've put it on myself. Most of the time it is triggers that I've done. And that's one reason why I'm trying to learn to practice the pause, even if it comes off maybe the wrong way, and be very intentional because I'm trying to listen to my body, especially during like fight or flight. I don't know if like that is a real thing. That is a real thing for me. So, hydration isn't just about water. It's about communication. We just talked about it, how it really can fill you in so many different ways. At a biological level, hydration supports electrical signaling. Electrolytes allow messages to move efficiently through your body. Those messages regulate your mood, your focus, your nervous system stability. When hydration drops, several things happen quietly. Your cortisol levels rise, regulation weakens, and the nervous system becomes more reactive. Not as a punishment. Many times we think it's a punishment. It's adapting. It's making an adaptation. This is why dehydration doesn't always feel like thirst. Sometimes it feels like irritability, anxiety, feeling overwhelmed by things that normally wouldn't even derail us. And instead of asking, what is my body communicating to me? We ask, what's wrong with me? What did I do? We shame ourselves, and shame replaces curiosity. But the body isn't failing. It's speaking to you. So when I think about this, I think about this question that I want to ask you two ladies. What symptoms in your life might actually be communication rather than problems to fix?
For me, I don't know. I feel like I'm so in tune most of the time that when a feeling or a symptom comes up, I'm like, okay, well, where did that come from? So I'm hyper focused on like, that's new. That's a new feeling. That's a new sensation. Or if I'm having a flare or a swelling or something, okay, I didn't eat anything. How was my sleep? How was my rest? Like, what am I stressed about? Like, I go through this big checklist. And then sometimes I feel like I don't know what the answer is. And that's super frustrating. But we keep asking the questions. We take the pause with my ring. It'll tell me like, hey, you didn't sleep well or your heart rate is elevated. So take it a little bit easy today. So do a little less. And I think for me, it's not necessarily trying to fix the problem. It's to honor what my body's trying to communicate, even if I can't understand that. Because sometimes it speaks in a language that I can't understand. But just like a baby crying, like something is wrong. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to do whatever I can and appease it as best as I can. And sometimes that's a nap and a snack.
I totally get that. I think for me, okay, here's a perfect example. This past 2 weeks, I've been having some major pain in my neck and my spine, and it's been giving me these horrible headaches. So I went to go see my friend who did a massage on me, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you are like your neck and your shoulders are really bad, and I think your neck is a little bit out of alignment." I'm like, "Oh, that probably makes sense." So she referred me to a chiropractor. Made an appointment to the chiropractor. Actually went for my first time yesterday. They did x-rays, and sure enough, like everything is pretty much all jumbled up and compression, and there's no curvature in my neck, like all these things. And for me, like the signals were there. Like we just talked about it. I feel terrible. My body hurts. I'm breaking down, but I'm pushing through. Like there is communication that's happening, and it's saying, hey, calm down. Let's stop working. My muscles are stretched out. They're tense. They're tight. You just keep on moving, and you just kind of like push it off on like, well, it's because I work too many hours, or, well, I'm not 20 like I used to, and I could used to fly through these 12 hours. And now it's just because I'm older. And really, it's not. It's because I'm not like there's communication there. I could still do it if I took care of the body and I listened to what my body was telling me. And so maybe it is that I just need to stretch more. Maybe I'm overusing my muscles. Or like another instance, I had a massage, and she's like, "You need to like relax." And I'm like, I thought I was relaxed. And she's like, "No." She's like, "Let me ask you this." She's like, is your tongue like on the top of your mouth, or is it like relaxed in your mouth? And I think about that a lot, because every time that feel like I am stressed or I'm trying to purposely relax, I always have to like move my tongue. It's always like up there on the roof of my mouth. And I'm like, there is tension there. And so that is a communication. It is letting me know that I am like tense for some reason. And that's when I go back into my questioning, and I start questioning myself. Okay, what is stressed me out today? What is happening right now? Why do I feel like this? And I have to really listen to myself and ask the questions so that I can basically let my body coast. I can keep it going the way it needs to be going. But it's literally like slowing down and listening to the communication that my body is giving me, these signals. And once you sit down and you really listen to that, then it's like a lot easier to fix problems. But like if I would have just gone in and been like, "Oh yeah, my neck is hurting," and I try to like do something to myself about it, it's not the same response. I'm not getting the same fix as me really calming down and saying, "Okay, well, why is my body hurting? Why do I have this issue? Is it the way that I am standing?" Like going through and thinking about all the things is different than just responding and trying to make a quick fix.
I love the way you both like shared this. And then I'm like the outsider and what I do wrong. And maybe it's not that I do wrong, but I should listen better. So, Anna, I love how when you feel something, you know that you have to make an adjustment. Like you have to be like, "Ooh, what is that?" I have certain things with my Hashimoto's. I know my levels are off when I start to do it. Sometimes I'll slur my speech, and that's a sign my numbers are off. Definitely when the brain fog is like heavy, the flutter in my heart, all different things when the anxiety is like more than ever. I tend to push through instead of making the call to do the level adjustments because I know I need them. But it feels like another task I have to do, but it always pushes me. And then the reset to get me balanced again. And I always say, "Oh, I'm not going to do this again. I'm going to work on it." It it takes sometimes either a good friend of mine who is an accountability partner for me for them to say, "Hey, it's time for you to go get your levels," because they know a lot of my signs, or Ed, my husband, to say, "Let's come on." But I'm really bad about stopping and pausing, even though I know the symptoms. Sometimes I ignore them because it seems like another task.
I can understand that, Amy, because I have definitely done that too. Because it is when you ignore it, to me, it's like, okay, well, if I stop now, I'm going to have to do whatever I'm doing later, anyways. And I don't have time later, or I don't want to do that later. I want this weekend for whatever I have planned. And so I will do the same. I'll ignore it and I'll push through too. I've been in both. Like I've done some times where I've been really good, just like Anna, and I can like listen to myself and take the pause and take the rest and do whatever I need to do. And then there's times that I don't, and I just push through because I'm like, it has to get done. Like it has to get done, and I don't have time later. So I'm just going to deal with it now. And, whatever happens, happens. And, I think it depends on what you got going on in your life at that time. Sometimes you just have to push through. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But sometimes you do have to take the pause and you listen to your body. And my sister has Hashimoto's. And one of the things, and I think you said this last episode as well, you said that you were gluten-free, maybe. Did you say that? Okay. So my
Yes.
sister Okay, so my sister is gluten-free. She's been gluten-free for 2 years, and I do not have Hashimoto's, but I have low thyroid, and so being gluten-free would also help me very much. I have the hardest time going gluten-free. Oh my gosh. I know I should do it, and I tell myself, "Well, I don't have Hashimoto, so I don't have to be gluten-free." But I know it would help me. I know I would help to not have some of that gluten in my body that's causing inflammation in my system, just based on my blood work and knowing my blood type and knowing what causes inflammation in my blood. Gluten is one of those things, even though I don't have celiac disease. That is one of the things that is so hard. And I will just eat the bagel and I'll push through and I'll feel bad. And then I'm like, oh, why didn't I do that? And then there are other times that I'll do really good. And I'm like, well, I'm going to get this cracker, but I'm going to get it because it's gluten free. And so I totally get what you're saying.
I love that. And I have a question for you specifically because I'm able with my autoimmune to push through. You have, and it does will crash me to a wall, but you also have to on a daily basis. Like, how do you monitor? Because I know, like, even tonight you're pushing through. And how do you know when it's one to push through? Lauren talked about the conference on one of our episodes and how you still got through it and you took some seats. When do you know it's the wall? And when do you know, like, I can keep going? Like, how do you determine that?
For me, it is a pain level, how much pain I can muster and tolerate. So I live in like on a scale of 1 to 10, my pain level on any given day, normal day, is like a 4 or a 5. So right now, I'm probably at a 7. I've had a long day. I was at the doctor this morning. I was at the doctor's yesterday. I have doctor's appointments tomorrow, like all of the things. So my hands are getting swollen. I got my ring, and when I tried it on, it was supposed to fit here, and now that's as far as it goes down. So, like, I just have to be able to part of my management is the reset. So if I can so I'm seated now. I'm not moving around. This is totally easy to do. My brain is not what has lit on fire yet and it has fatigue, but it's my hands and my joints. And so, but I'm sitting now and that's okay. I can manage that. Now, if we had to be up and out and we were at an event, I would be kind of at the end of my rope. But there is a dark side to taking the rest. And maybe it's not a dark side, but if you ever come over to my house, don't look at my baseboards. Like, I don't get on the floor and scrub my baseboards. Like, I mop them with the mop and but I do not get on my hands and knees and scrub the baseboards. So if you come to my house, you just have to give me that grace because it takes me 2 days to clean my house top to bottom, wash everything, get everything back, and then I have to sleep for 2 days. Now, usually I clean my house because we have people coming over or we're doing something. And so that takes another edge out. Or I have to ask Mark, like, hey, can you clean the bathrooms or can you do this or help me get dinner or whatever. So again, like Ed, like Mark can start to see and he knows how far he can push me. Or if we're going to be out late, he's like, look, I'm going to put you in the truck and we're going to get you home. So just relax because things start to not work and move anymore. So I just take it day by day and it's a pain tolerance for me. So I go until it is excruciatingly painful and I just can't move anymore.
Wow. There's an article called Married to Hashimoto's, and it was written by a husband. And it talks about, I highly recommend reading it. Like you can, search it and find it. But it talks about how being married to somebody with an autoimmune and it like the first time that my husband read it, he it just brought us both to tears because it really is showcasing like there's days where he knows I just need to stay in bed and not to make me feel bad about it. And I love that your husband knows like, hey, I'm going to clean the bathroom because that task is going to give me like multiple more hours of the Anna I want than Anna on the couch or Anna laying in bed. And those are the things where we also have to allow when we recognize those signals. We also have to allow those that want to help us to help us.
Rest is not giving up. So if you are in a position where this is your life and these things happen, like have the conversation. And along my Lyme and lupus journey, I have been that advocate and had that conversation of like, she can't tell you how she feels. Like, so if you're asking her to do these things, so usually I'm talking to a husband, it's like, okay, remember the last time that you had the flu and how you didn't want to do anything and you were so tired? She lives that on a daily basis. And then you ask her to clean the house and take care of the kids and go out to dinner and go to church and to do all the things. Like, no wonder she doesn't feel like doing it. So when it's time for her to rest, let her rest. She's not surrendering. She's not giving up, but she needs to rest. But if you push her past that point, I mean, guys too. So if you suffer with this, whatever gender you are, right? If you push past that point of no return, you pay a very dear price for it. That's when you want to give up. That's when you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. And you can surrender in not the way of, hey, I'm going to surrender to rest and recover and get back to life. Like those are two different things, but take the rest when you need the rest. It's not giving up.
Most solutions force compliance. They override signals and exhaust systems, but the body responds best to alignment, not force, not willpower. That's why we share tools that support the body's natural design, not fight it. You'll find them linked in the show notes.
Spiritual thirst mirrors physical depletion. So just like when our soul is dry, we don't always feel sad, but we feel distant or disconnected or like just something's missing. So there is a time that when we are not getting spiritually watered and fed that we can get impatient. So spending time daily in the scripture allows us to feed that internal nourishment. And scripture doesn't shame thirst, it names it. My soul thirsts for you. Like, I have a physical craving, and I know that when life happens and things get in the way of my morning routine, like, I feel it. I feel that disconnect. And what you thirst for really matters. So, and what you feed yourself with. So, what you listen to, what you read, who you spend your time with, all of those things fuel your body in either a positive way or a negative way. So, drinking water is far more hydrating, especially with electrolytes, than soda or coffee, right? You can't live on coffee alone, right? But prayer was never meant to be proof of devotion. It is that signal and that response. So when we spend time in that, we're more grounded, we're more present. Our fuse is a little bit longer with everybody else. So, and just like hydration, we don't hydrate to prove we're disciplined in drinking water. I mean, somebody might. If you're on a water journey and you've never had water before, you're like, I'm going to do my 100 ounces or I'm going to drink a gallon, right? It's not to prove you're disciplined at getting hydrated, but we have to be hydrated every day because our life depends on it. Our cells depend on it. And thirst implies a relationship. The relationship that you have with your electrical system and your cells and how well you operate. And it assumes that there's something or someone, in the case of prayer, that can meet that need for us. And ignoring thirst, powering through it, doesn't make us stronger. It makes us more disconnected. So here's my question for you is what does spiritual thirst feel like in your body? Not just your thoughts, but how it actually makes your body feel.
I think for me, my body just feels depleted. I just get like very lethargic. I get very exhausted. And through that exhaustion is when I start feeling bad, or I start feeling irritable, or I start feeling agitated, or maybe I just crave weird foods and I get really hungry and I just don't care about my food choices or stuff like that. And it's very weird because, like, when you're thirsty and you drink water, it like fills you up. It gives you that hydration. For me, when I have lack of this connection, this spiritual connection, I'm not practicing the things that I would practice typically in my faith to grow my faith. Like those things give me energy and I feel very like confident in that. And when I don't have that, when I don't get to go to church or when I don't get to like do my nighttime prayers before I go to bed, or I don't wake up and have some quiet time, or and I do that and it regularly happens where I don't get that, I just start to feel exhausted. I feel like, oh my gosh, I cannot do this and I can't do this, and I need help. And I go through all these different things. And it kind of goes back to that scripture in the Bible, like John 10:10, where he talks about the thief is the enemy that steals, destroys, and kills. And to me, that is what exhaustion is to me when I don't have that. And then when I get this prayer time and I get this abundance of time with God, it gives me so much joy and it just helps me so much in my life. And I'm able to make better decisions and it fills me up. Fills the cup, if we hear that phrase, fills your cup. When I truly feel like I'm living, that's when I'm able to like go and enjoy life because I feel full. I feel good. It's just kind of like when you're thirsty and you drink the water and you finally feel hydrated and you're like, oh, okay, I feel good. To me, that's what it feels like.
I love when you talk about you're really living when you're connected. Relating back to what we were just talking earlier in the episode about how recognizing signs, but then also pushing through. I have a tendency I enjoy going to church because I love the music. Bottom line, I want to sing. I want to hear it. I want to be a part of it. It connects me. I do get into a habit sometimes where things are very rushed or there's a lot going on. I'm like, okay, we'll go to mass on Saturday instead of Sunday, or then it gets switched up and I don't get to go. And then it'll be like a week or two and I'm feeling a void of, wait a minute, what happened? Why did I not listen till I needed this? And then anytime that I take a break, even though I don't feel like you have to be in brick and mortar to have your faith, and I don't believe that. That's not what I believe. I pray throughout the day all the time, like just even talk to God in my head, like I do. But I also know I crave to be in church. And the more that I make a commitment to that, our family's also tied together better. Like my family enjoys to go, but sometimes it's funny and not in a ha-ha way. Sometimes it's not always the front burner every single week when we're better when we do.
This video is brought to you by you. Seriously, thank you for liking, subscribing, and dropping those thoughtful comments. Every single one of them helps spread our mission. If you're loving what you're hearing, come hang out with us on Instagram. That's where we take each episode a little bit further with weekly action steps, deep questions, and behind-the-scene action. So if you're ready to turn insight into transformation, join the conversation at Prayer and Peptides. Now back to the episode. So we've been taught that discipline means ignoring signals. In other words, you do things consistently to teach yourself a new structure. For instance, if I'm trying to build muscle, maybe I'm becoming really disciplined in weightlifting, and I do it like 5 times a week because I'm trying to be disciplined. But I might not continue with this even if I'm in pain, or I might continue with this even if I'm in pain. But discipline without listening becomes disconnection. Hydration, physical and spiritual, isn't about forcing intake. It's about permission to receive. Overriding signals tightens the systems. Listening restores flow. When we slow down enough to respond, the nervous system softens. And often what we are afraid of isn't just slowing down, it's what we might feel if we do. But listening doesn't create weakness, it creates regulation. So, Aimee, let me ask you this question. What are you afraid would happen if you stopped pushing past the signal?
Ooh. If I'm pushing past signals, a fear of failure, a fear of letting people down. You talked earlier about like the tongue at the roof of your mouth. That's me 24/7. I don't know if I've ever had my tongue not at the roof of my mouth. So I was like practicing, like, I was like, wait, I don't even know how to do that. I think listening to signals immediately gives me that anxiety feeling that I'm going to drop something, in the circus where they have the plates and they spin them, you know what I mean? And then one wobbles and you have to go over here. I'm always afraid I'm going to let a plate fall. And it's a positive and negative, right? So I'm great because I'll never let anybody fail if I can. But if I let somebody down or if I don't do something that I said I was going to do because of a signal that maybe I didn't listen to or I did listen to, like it really affects me. And how I handle other people truly affects me more than what people realize. And I would rather hurt myself before hurting anybody else, even if they thought in the moment that they were receiving like the hard end. Promise you, it took more out of me than it did anybody else.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on I don't mind like if I don't have anything planned and I need to address a signal, like I can do that. But if I have told somebody yes, or I need to do something or work on a project, like I feel like a failure if I let someone else down. And for the most part, anybody would understand if I said, hey, I just like my brain melted out of my ears. Can you give me a little bit longer? Again, I am not a brain surgeon and I don't live on a brain surgeon's timeline. Like nothing is life or death for me. It feels like it a lot of times, especially when we get into that mode of not wanting to let someone else down. But I think that understanding people, would give more grace and patience than we give them credit for sometimes. But I'm right there with you. It's not about me. It's about how does it affect someone else.
I totally get that. And I think that the fear of letting other people down is real. I mean, I think we all feel that for sure. I think also, though, I have some major FOMO. I have this fear of missing out, and I will push through just because I don't want to miss out. Like, what is on that other side that I want to see or that I want to accomplish? And if I don't hit those goals, then what does that say about me? And if I don't hit those goals, what am I missing out on? And what could happen if I just pushed through and worked a little bit harder? If I just stayed up and, worked a little bit harder, for an extra hour? Or what if I, took one extra client and I was at work a little bit longer? What if it's just always, I could do a little bit more. I'm always pushing myself and I push past that signal because I don't want to miss out. I don't want to miss out on the opportunities that are presented to me. I don't want to miss out on time with friends. I don't want to miss out with time with family. I value a lot of that time and a lot of those things. And I just have this huge fear of missing out. I just have major FOMO.
So we talked about an event that we went to, and I pieced out early because I was in pain, and I missed out on a photo with all of my favorite people. And I am not in that photo. And it bothers me to this day that I am not in that photo because it took place probably 15 to 30 minutes after I had to bail out. Like, not that I didn't need to honor myself, but I'm right there with you, Lauren, of like, I feel like I miss out on a lot of things, or I can't enjoy them as much as I would like to, or in a way that I would like to, because I just have to deal with other stuff or other stuff is present. But I'm right there with you. Like, totally have that fear of missing out too.
So, Anna, let me ask you this. When you feel that and you're like, man, I missed out on that photo op, which we'll have to like make that up. When you feel those moments, how do you regulate your emotions in that moment? Like, how do you go through and like just handle that? I mean, because that is truly a struggle. I'm gonna push through and I'm gonna make it happen and I'm gonna do it and I'm gonna get there. And then I'm like, man, now I'm exhausted. But if I would have just listened to the signals and listened to my body and just calmed myself down and just taken the rest, I probably would have been better off.
I cry in the bathtub a lot or in the
Mm.
shower. It's just, I mean, it's part of kind of my life. So I plan as much as I possibly can. And I will go till the end of my rope as far as I can go. So, like having a place that I can sit down so I can be present and be in the room with things is absolutely fantastic. But like standing all day and being on my feet all night, like it just doesn't, then I'm toast the next day and then my brain doesn't work. If my body doesn't work, my brain goes next. It's in my normal life, it's a little bit easier to plan around because I can say, hey, like I can come but for a little bit, or like, is there a place that I can like sit and relax and be part of the thing? And now it still hurts. And by 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, like I didn't want to go to a New Year's Eve party because I didn't want to be up till 1 o'clock. Like, so I stayed home on the couch all by myself. It was fantastic, right? I went to bed before midnight. The new year came anyway. Like everybody in Australia, like they already knew it was coming. It was safe. The world didn't end. We're all good, right? So it does come with some heartache. And for the most part, if I'm meant to be there and something's supposed to happen, I'll be there. Like that's one of my prayers of like, don't let me miss the opportunity to encourage somebody or to connect with somebody and, make that happen. But there is a price to pay even if I push past and stay out till everybody else is ready to go to sleep. But I don't live on everybody else's battery. So I can't make my phone battery go or if I'm using it because when it's done until we charge it and put it to bed.
This week, don't fix anything. Just notice before your morning coffee, before your phone, drink water. Pause. Practice the pause I was talking about. Offer your body attention without expectation. Let hydration become prayer, not productivity. No tracking, no perfection, just listening.
As a reminder, peptides are part of this process too. We rely on these signals and they act as messengers and they support communication, not control. When systems are hydrated and supported, emotional steadiness improves. You get a longer bandwidth. You get a longer fuse to deal with all of the crazy in your life. Mental clarity increases. Do you know you're 70% water? If you have the option to go hop on a bioimpedance scale and see if you're less than 50% water, you're dehydrated. You're not absorbing the water and the minerals and all the things. And all water is not created equal. You need the salts and the minerals to create that electrical connection. And when you do that, regulation becomes easier, like day in, day out. And it's not because you forced a change to happen, didn't check off a box, didn't do all of the things, but you just listened and responded to what your body was asking for. If today resonated with you, we've created some simple tools that support your body's natural communication systems. And they're linked in the show notes. And we'll continue this conversation in the next episode.
If something in today's conversation stirred you, send it to the person who came to mind. That's how this message moves, person to person, and we can't do it without you. If you want to stay connected, go ahead and subscribe, like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. All the resources and goodies are linked in the show notes, and we'd love to continue the conversation with you over on Instagram. Until next time, stay prayerful, stay curious, and keep listening to the signals. The content shared on Prayer and Peptides podcast is for educational, informational, and inspirational purposes only. This podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease, nor is it a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Discussions around peptides, nervous system regulation, stress, sleep, hydration, and wellness are presented as general educational concepts and reflections on the body's design, not as medical recommendations. Always seek the advice of your physician, a licensed healthcare provider, or qualified medical professional regarding any medical condition, symptoms, medication, supplements, or health discussions. Never disregard or delay seeking professional medical advice because of something you heard on this podcast. The host and guests of Prayer and Peptides are not acting as medical providers. Any personal experiences or stories shared are anecdotal and not intended to imply guaranteed outcomes. Spiritual reflections, prayer, and scripture-informed insights are offered as relational and supportive practices, not as replacements for medical or mental health care. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that you are responsible for your own health decisions and that Prayer and Peptides assumes no liability for actions taken based on the information presented.